It usually happens late at night, when the noise finally fades, when the world stops demanding something from you, when you stop performing, pretending, or rushing, and suddenly you're left with yourself. Your mind runs through questions you've avoided all day. What am I doing with my life? Why do I feel stuck? Why does the path forward feel as foggy as the past behind me? These quiet moments can be uncomfortable, even painful, yet they are also where transformation begins. Because the truth is this: life rarely hands clarity to people who never stop long enough to hear it. I remember a season of my own life where everything felt out of alignment. I woke up tired. I moved through days as if someone else was choosing them for me. I chased goals that no longer felt like mine. People kept telling me to stay positive, as if positivity alone could rearrange the shape of my soul. It wasn't sadness I felt, it was confusion. A sense that life was happening to me instead of through me. And like many of you, I looked outside for answers: books, advice, motivation, guidance. But every voice felt like another layer of noise. Until one day, almost by accident, I revisited the writings of Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai whose ideas cut deeper into the human condition than any sword ever could. And that's when something extraordinary happened. His words didn't lift me with soft comfort. They didn't promise easy victories or effortless success. They confronted me. They stripped away illusions. They made me uncomfortable in the best possible way. Because Musashi didn't try to protect you from life. He tried to prepare you for it. His philosophy wasn't about feeling good. It was about becoming powerful, becoming someone who steers their life with intention instead of drifting with the currents of fear, doubt, and distraction. If reflections like this speak to you, if you appreciate deep ideas that don't just motivate, but fundamentally shift the way you see yourself, you may want to subscribe. This channel exists for people who want to take back the steering wheel of their life, one insight at a time. But now, let's return to Musashi. What makes his teaching so potent is not that they were born from theory, but from survival. Musashi lived through wars, duels, betrayal, solitude, and constant danger. Yet his greatest battles were not fought against enemies. They were fought within himself. He realized early that the person who controls themselves controls their fate. And that realization is the foundation of every rule he ever wrote. The first truth Musashi forces us to confront is that clarity does not come from comfort. It comes from solitude. Not isolation, not loneliness, but solitude. The courageous act of sitting with yourself without running from what you find. Most people fear solitude because it reveals the gap between who they are and who they pretend to be. Musashi embraced it. He sought it. He walked into mountains alone, slept under trees alone, traveled unknown roads alone. Not because he loved silence, but because he understood what silence uncovers. Solitude sharpens the mind the way a whetstone sharpens steel. It cuts away illusions, assumptions, false identities. And without that clarity, you cannot lead your life. You can only follow its chaos. Imagine deliberately choosing to spend time with your own thoughts. Not scrolling, not distracting yourself, but listening. Letting your fears speak honestly. Letting your hopes rise without judgment. Letting the truth of your desires surface. Musashi believed that if you cannot face yourself, you cannot face the world. In modern life, solitude becomes a radical act, a rebellion against noise, and those who dare to claim it gain a perspective the frantic world never sees. But solitude alone is not enough. Musashi understood another truth. Perfection is a trap. Most people are imprisoned by the idea of becoming flawless before they even start. They want the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect confidence. And because perfection never arrives, neither do they. Musashi shattered this illusion. He never claimed mastery. He claimed movement. To him, the path itself was the teacher. He believed that growth comes from thousands of imperfect strikes, imperfect choices, imperfect attempts, each one carving you into someone stronger than before. Think of how many dreams die because their owners are waiting to feel ready. Musashi didn't wait. He entered every duel with the mindset of a student, not a flawless warrior. He didn't seek perfection, he sought improvement. And in a world where people paralyze themselves with overthinking, Musashi's rule becomes liberating. Perfection is the enemy of progress. If you want to take control of your life, stop worshiping flawless outcomes and start honoring forward motion. Yet Musashi also teaches us to navigate life with eyes sharpened by truth rather than seduced by appearances. He mastered the ability to see through deception, not just the deception of opponents, but the deception of the mind. People lie to each other, yes, but the mind also lies to itself. It exaggerates fears. It amplifies insecurities. It convinces you that you're behind, not enough, or too late. Musashi learned to separate illusion from reality by observing deeply, quietly, and without emotional fog. In our modern age of misinformation, curated identities, highlight reels, and constant digital manipulation, this rule becomes critical. Train yourself to see beneath surfaces. Ask questions. Discern motives. Trust patterns more than promises. Musashi understood that life rewards those who can see what others ignore. From this clarity emerges another rule, the rule of balance. Musashi was an unmatched warrior, yet he also painted, sculpted, wrote poetry, studied philosophy, and designed architecture. He knew that a mind focused on only one thing becomes brittle. A life dedicated to only one domain becomes narrow. To lead your life, you must balance multiple dimensions: work and rest, ambition and reflection, connection and solitude, discipline and play. Balance prevents burnout, but it also creates creativity. When you pull wisdom from multiple worlds, you see solutions others miss. Musashi didn't become great because he mastered one thing. He became great because he mastered learning itself. But even balance must bend when the world shifts. That is why Musashi emphasized adaptability above strength. He won duels, not because he was the strongest, but because he was the least predictable. He observed, adjusted, shifted rhythm, changed tactics. He understood that the rigid mind breaks under pressure, while the adaptable mind flows through it. Modern life moves fast, faster than any era Musashi lived in. Technology changes, careers change, relationships evolve. Society transforms. And in this constant whirlwind, those who refuse to change lose control of their life. To be in the driver's seat, you must be willing to pivot, experiment, unlearn, relearn, and embrace challenges as invitations rather than threats. But even adaptability requires presence. Musashi often wrote that the present moment is the only battleground that exists. The past is gone. The future is imagined. But the present, this breath, this choice, this step, is where power lies. Most people live trapped between regret and anticipation. They are either haunted by yesterday or anxious about tomorrow. Musashi teaches us to anchor ourselves in the now. When you enter fully into a single moment, fear dissolves. Hesitation vanishes, clarity sharpens. Life stops feeling overwhelming and starts feeling navigable. Yet even presence can be clouded by emotion, if not tempered with what Musashi called tactical detachment. He didn't suppress emotion, he mastered it. He understood that when feelings drive decisions, chaos follows. Detachment does not mean apathy, it means space. The space to feel emotion without becoming it. The space to choose response over reaction. The space to think clearly, even when the heart trembles. Imagine facing criticism without collapsing. Encountering conflict without exploding. Receiving opportunities without greed blinding you. This is the kind of mental freedom tactical detachment offers. These principles form the early architecture of Musashi's philosophy, a framework built not to decorate your life, but to strengthen it. They are not easy. They demand introspection, courage, discipline, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. But they also hand you something priceless, the power to steer your own life. There's a moment in Musashi's writing where his voice becomes quieter, less like a warrior instructing you, and more like a guide placing a hand on your shoulder. It is the moment he speaks about nature. For Musashi, nature was not decoration or scenery, it was a teacher. He saw strategy in flowing rivers, patience in unmoving mountains, rhythm in changing seasons, and humility in the vast, indifferent sky. To him, nature revealed truths the human world hides, that life is cyclical, that change is constant, that growth requires both light and darkness, and that everything eventually returns to the earth. In our modern world, many people have lost connection to this ancient teacher. We live indoors, surrounded by artificial noise, artificial light, artificial urgency. We forget that stepping into nature is like stepping into a mirror that reflects our truest state. A quiet walk in a forest becomes a reminder that we are not as overwhelmed as we think. We are simply overstimulated. The sound of water becomes a reminder that emotions flow and do not stay. A single breeze reminds you that life continues to move even when you feel stuck. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. That is why Musashi sought its presence, not to escape life, but to understand it. And when you reconnect with nature in your own way, an early morning walk, watching clouds, breathing fresh air, you regain a piece of yourself the world tries to take, your inner rhythm. But nature alone does not forge a warrior. Musashi believed that discipline is the purest form of freedom. To the undisciplined, discipline feels like limitation. But to the disciplined, discipline feels like liberation. He knew that the people who lack discipline become controlled by impulses, cravings, laziness, and distraction, a prison disguised as comfort. Yet the person with discipline builds a structure that supports their dreams, not destroys them. Discipline was Musashi's daily ritual, the invisible architecture holding up every victory he earned. He woke, trained, studied, and refined himself every single day, not because someone demanded it, but because he chose to live in alignment with the person he intended to become. When you commit to discipline, you stop relying on motivation. You stop waiting for inspiration. You stop needing external pressure. You act because the action defines you, not because the world rewards you. And slowly, something remarkable happens. You begin to trust yourself. That trust becomes momentum. Momentum becomes identity. And that identity becomes freedom. Freedom to pursue the life you want without being sabotaged by your own habits. Yet even discipline, even mastery, even clarity must eventually confront the ultimate truth Musashi learned: death. Not death as fear, but death as reminder. He believed that accepting death allowed him to truly live. When people avoid thinking about mortality, they cling to what is safe. They postpone dreams. They hesitate. They build their life around avoiding pain rather than seeking purpose. Musashi saw death as inevitable. Therefore, he saw fear as optional. When you accept that life is temporary, every moment becomes sharper. Every choice becomes meaningful. You stop waiting for the right time because you finally understand that time is never guaranteed. To live with the awareness of mortality is not to live in despair. It is to live with intensity. It is to wake with gratitude. It is to take chances you once avoided. It is to choose relationships that matter and release those that drain. It is to speak the truth you once swallowed. It is to walk toward challenges rather than around them. Musashi embodied this philosophy not because he romanticized death, but because he believed it gave birth to deeper life. And when you weave these rules together, solitude, progress, clarity, balance, adaptability, presence, detachment, nature, discipline, mortality, something powerful emerges. A blueprint for taking control of your life. These are not random principles. They are the 10 lines of code that rewrite the mind. They shift your posture from reactive to deliberate, from overwhelmed to aware, from passenger to driver. Musashi never intended his rules to be memorized. He intended them to be lived. He wanted you to step into the center of your own existence with both feet, not drifting through days on autopilot, but carving your path with intention and courage. Think of someone who applies even one of these rules. Someone who takes solitude seriously begins hearing their true desires for the first time. Someone who rejects perfection stops hesitating and finally begins. Someone who sees through deception stops falling for illusions. Someone who balances their life discovers energy they forgot they had. Someone who adapts becomes unstoppable in a changing world. Someone who lives in the present stops drowning in anxiety. Someone who practices detachment navigates conflict without losing themselves. Someone who touches nature finds peace that cannot be bought. Someone who honors discipline gains control over their destiny. Someone who accepts mortality stops wasting time and starts living with purpose. Now imagine the person who practices all 10. That is a life that no longer drifts. That is a person who walks with direction. That is someone who becomes the author of their fate, instead of a character reacting to every plot twist life throws at them. Musashi's rules are not instructions for warriors alone. They are instructions for anyone who wants to reclaim their inner authority in a world constantly trying to take it away. If you reflect on your own journey for a moment, you may sense the places where you're drifting instead of driving. Perhaps you've been waiting for clarity instead of creating it. Perhaps you've been letting emotions steer you instead of guiding them. Perhaps you've been building your life around comfort instead of purpose. These realizations are not weaknesses. They are invitations. Invitations to step into a version of yourself you have always felt but never fully activated. Because the truth is, Musashi did not write these rules for perfect people. He wrote them for people willing to become powerful. And if these ideas resonate with you, if you can feel something awakening inside you, some ancient instinct to take ownership of your life, you might want to subscribe so you can continue this journey with us. Every week, we explore the ideas that sharpen your mind, strengthen your spirit, and help you step into the driver's seat of your own story. Musashi ends his philosophy not with triumph, but with humility. He teaches that mastery is not about conquering others. It's about conquering the parts of yourself that keep you small. It's about recognizing that growth is uncomfortable, but so is staying stuck. It's about understanding that the people who shape the world are not the loudest or the strongest, but the ones who have disciplined their inner world until the outer world can no longer shake them. Imagine yourself years from now, looking back. What will matter is not the fears you had, the doubts you carried, or the mistakes you made. What will matter is whether you chose to act anyway, whether you chose to step forward, whether you chose to take responsibility for your path, even when uncertainty clouded it, whether you chose to live deliberately, bravely, honestly. These 10 rules, when lived, not just remembered, guide you toward that version of yourself. Musashi walked the earth as a lone swordsman, but the truth is, he was never walking away from people. He was walking toward himself. And now, as you carry these rules into your own life, perhaps you will begin the same journey. Because once you take the driver's seat, life stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something you're creating with every breath, every choice, every step.